Secretary General, Comrade Jesse Duarte, and Comrade Ace Makashule, the Secretary General. I'm going to hand over to the SG to read out the statement. Over to you, SG.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon. My voice is not that good. Let me read the statement from the National Executive Committee of the ANC from the 26th, 29th of July 2019. The ANC National Executive Committee met in its regular session from the 26th to 29th of July 2019 at St. George's Hotel in Tshwane. The NEC meeting took place 2 months after the national and provincial elections, when the national and in 8 provinces. The NEC Lokota from the 1st to the 3rd of June 2019 set out the overarching governance priorities for this term of office based on the ANC manifesto and conference resolutions, and building on and learning lessons from the first 25 years of democracy. Cabinet held its own Lekgotla and translated the priorities into government medium-term strategic framework of 2019-2024. as reflected in the State of the Nation address and the budget votes of the executive. The successful implementation of this program of action depends on an African National Congress that is united, focused, and with the capacity to mobilize society behind its mission of a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous South Africa. We therefore, as the National Executive Committee, also address the issue of unity, renewal, and capacity of the ANC in the context of this mission and the current economic situation confronting our nation, and the expectation of the people that we must speed up transformation. We woke up this morning on the announcement that the official unemployment rate has risen to 29%. This continues to be the single most important challenge facing our nation. The ANC agreed that among the most critical tasks of the organization as we continue to build a non-racial, non-sexism is therefore to place the economy on an inclusive and higher growth trajectory, create employment, strengthen local government, and improve service delivery. And on the economic front, the National Executive Committee received presentation on the current state of the economy. It discussed the structure of the economy, including monopolies in various sectors, the state of manufacturing, investment, black economic empowerment, as well as sustainable job creation. The NEC noted with concern the poor performance of our economy, with continued job losses and serious challenges in critical state-owned enterprises. And this has a dire impact on poor households, the middle class, women and young people who bear the brunt of structural unemployment, inequality and poverty. The National Executive Committee also received an update on the implementation of the economic stimulus and recovery plan, including targets set announced by government in 2018. It urged government at all levels to move faster in the implementation of the package of measures and to monitor and report on a regular basis to the National Executive Committee. The NEC called on government and to also consider other agent measures to accelerate radical socio-economic transformation through inclusive growth and employment creation involving all social partners. This includes prioritizing the reimagined industrial strategy in identified priority sectors, micro and macroeconomic policy measures, tackling the monopolistic structure of the economy, land reform and agro-processing, a carbon-efficient economy, fourth industrial revolution sectors, and improving the ease of doing business in South Africa and investments in infrastructure, in townships, and in rural economies. The National Executive Committee expressed grave concern about the continued job losses and urged government and all social partners to address this process by implementing the 2018 Job Summit Agreement, including such measures as temporary employee-employer relief scheme to be used by companies in distress as a means of financial relief to retain jobs and reskill workers. Government and social partners are also urged to report on urgent measures to tackle problem of unemployment, especially youth unemployment. The ANC calls on all its members, supporters, and all South Africans to be part of this national effort to accelerate inclusive growth and transformation through small and medium businesses, cooperatives, artisanships, social entrepreneurship, innovative enterprise development, and other measures, as well as engagement with business and entrepreneurs in other African countries, so that we make use of the opportunities of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Once more, on the South African Reserve Bank, the NEC reaffirmed the 54th National Conference resolution to return the sovereignty of this important national institution to the people of South Africa as a whole. And the NEC emphasized the policy positions of the ANC on the mandate of South African Reserve Bank and its independence, as set out in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, with its mandate to be exercised in regular consultations with government. The NEC welcomed government decision to provide assistance to Eskom to address its liquidity challenges, with the understanding that the entity should proceed with reorganizing to improve efficiency and transparency while safeguarding jobs and livelihoods. The NEC appreciated Cabinet approval of the policy for the licensing of the high demand spectrum, which will have a significant impact on the cost and availability of broadband services. And we further noted and supported the process by government to deal with the matter of e-tolls so that it is resolved amicably and expeditiously. But the NEC reaffirms the user pay principle in dealing with the financing of major infrastructure projects. The NEC will remain seized with this and other economic transformation challenges and opportunities at each of its meetings. And on land reform, the National Executive Committee reaffirmed ANC resolution on accelerated land reform and its commitment to a mix of state, communal, and private ownership of land. The National Executive Committee welcomed the establishment of the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee tasked with the amendments to Section 25 of the Constitution to allow for expropriation of land without compensation, and we urge the committee to complete its work by the end of this year. The NEC welcomed the report of the Presidential Advisory Panel on Land Reform and Agriculture, which made comprehensive recommendation on transformation of agriculture, rural and urban land and spatial transformation. And the NEC encourages government to move swiftly towards the implementation of the panel's recommendation. We also noted that a key part of stimulus package is support to over 250,000 small-scale and emerging farmers, and that the support must be implemented in a targeted, developmental and transparent manner. And the National Executive Committee also knows that the review of the Land Claims Court has started as part of the ANC 2018 Land Summit recommendation and the NEC decision on this matter. And therefore we welcome the commitment once more of government to visit every district during this term of office. The focus on the district level as a point of delivery should ensure improvements in the delivery of services and infrastructure such as water, sanitation, education, health, human settlement, and decentralized economic development and job creation and safer communities. The state of local government remains an issue of concern, and the ANC will convene a special two-day NEC meeting to pay attention to this critical sphere of government and improving the delivery of effective and affordable basic services. We once more welcome the finalization of the National Health Insurance Bill by Cabinet, the establishment of an NHI war room, and the signing of a health compact between government and various sectors of our society. The ANC welcomes the extraordinary measures to deal with gang violence and violent crimes on the Cape Flats, including the deployment of the South African National Defence Force. And the levels of crime across the country, including gender-based violence, must remain a priority concern of government and all sectors of society. And the National Executive Committee instructed all its deployees in government and all spheres from national to province and local to deal with issues expeditiously and to be focused and diligent in the implementation of programs and to engage the people and relevant sectors. And we spend more time also emphasizing the 2017 NASREC conference, focusing on our decision on renewal and unity of the ANC. The National Executive Committee had extensive discussion on strengthening the organization, accelerating renewal and unity, and building collective leadership so that the movement becomes a more effective instrument for radical socio-economic transformation and uniting and serving the people and the entire country. The National Executive Committee welcomed the progress made in implementing the 54th National Conference instruction on a sustained program of renewal and unity, which was evident in the establishment of the effective organizational machinery responsible for the 2019 election victory. The National Executive Committee recognized that there is certain persistent behavior, particularly at leadership levels, which undermines this program. This includes factionalism, untested and wild accusations, use of social media to attack each other, and policy positions of the ANC, leaks to the media, and taking the organization to court without exhausting internal processes. The National Executive Committee further noted and strongly condemned the use of intimidation, violence, and even killings to assess positions in the ANC and government, resources and patronage. And we reaffirm the agent renewal task from National Conference to strengthen branches as agents of development and social cohesion in communities. The National Executive Committee welcomed progress with the implementation of the new membership system, which will go live before the end of August 2019, allowing for members to join and renew online and to manage their own membership. This will assist in addressing gatekeeping, bulk buying of membership, and corruption. And the National Executive Committee adopted the organizational program of action, which has specific external and internal tasks for ANC branches. And this includes the need for branches to build a direct relationship with the people and regular contact through door-to-door work in all communities, and the need to respond to local needs and work with government and civil society to address problems facing our communities. Branches are expected to participate fully in democratic ANC elections and decision-making on policy, and they need to recruit more people who can contribute to the ANC mission and deploy members to participate in community activities. The meeting adopted a mass political education program targeting at least 50,000 cadres over 3 years to be implemented through our OR Tambo School of Leadership. And in line with the 54th National Conference resolution on the review of our internal party electoral system, the National Executive Committee agreed to review the through the eye of the needle document so that we improve our internal electoral system, including internal rules and regulations for lobbying. Since its mandate has come to an end, the National Executive Committee dissolved the ANC Youth League National Executive Committee, and we appointed a National Youth Task Team to oversee the process of rebuilding the ANC Youth League, of implementing a program of action, working with Progressive Youth Alliance and other youth formations, and organize a successful National Congress of the ANC Youth League not later by January 31, 2020. As we embark on Women's Month, we recognize that we are in a society whose constitution commits us to build a non-sexist society. And over the last 25 years, we have made strides towards the emancipation of women. And at the same time, as we continue to fight to dismantle of patriarchy and fight misogyny, we must tackle gender-based violence, the economic and social exclusion of women, equal pay for equal work, and the employment of women in all spheres of society. The ANC, as a leader of society, is the only party with a gender parity policy and which integrates non-sexism in all its policies, leadership structures, and programs. And the National Executive Committee at this meeting adopted the ANC internal policy
The SABC
and he was co-founder of the Transvaal African Teachers Association, as well as a co-founder, a political journal, The Native Advocate, and Abantu Batu. And as the president of the Transvaal Congress and an NEC member, Makgato was enraged by the passing of the Land Act of 1913, which he believed was fraught, I quote, with the most momentous issues as it infringes on the common rights of the people. The National Executive Committee encourages all structures, therefore, to organize memorial lectures and other activities on the life of this giant of our struggle. And we further confirm that disciplinary processes need to be implemented consistently, and that any leader or member who contravenes ANC policies and protocols shall face due process in line with the ANC Constitution without fear or favor. And on the issue of allegations against Comrade Derek Haneko, this matter was raised in the meeting of the National Executive Committee, and the National Executive Committee referred this matter to officials for processing. The National Executive Committee urged law enforcement agencies to act decisively on political killings and serious acts of criminality. The National Executive Committee also knows the increase in taxi violence and murders, which also required a coordinated response by the relevant agencies and government. And the NEC noted that some opposition parties, due to their poverty of ideas and lack of clear programs, are attempting to set the agenda of the ANC. They do so through wild allegations in order to try to distract us from our program of transformation. And the National Executive Committee vote not to be diverted and call on all members to remain vigilant so that we don't allow opposition to further divisions in our movement. And the ANC recognizes that the people of South Africa are very interested in the outcome of its deliberations as the leader of transformation and governing party. And it is therefore concerning that the media continues to mispresent its discussions and meetings using faceless sources. The National Executive Committee remains committed to dealing with the media in an open and constructive manner and expects the same courtesy in return. On financial, ethical, and clean government, the National Executive Committee reaffirmed its commitment to strengthen ethical and clean government and to fight corruption and state capture as per our 54th National Conference resolutions. We noted the proceedings of the Zondo Commission and reaffirmed its position that the ANC will not give running commentary on evidence before the Commission. And we therefore reaffirm our previous position that all ANC members must cooperate with the Commission, and the ANC has and will at appropriate time make its own submissions to the Commission. The National Executive Committee revised the terms of reference of the Integrity Committee to enable it to call on ANC members and leaders to appear before it, and to enable members to present themselves to the Commission and to strengthen the Commission investigative capacity. The National Executive Committee noted various recent reports of the public affecting the public protector, some of its leaders, and the fact that these have been taken on judicial review. The meeting affirmed its principal support for the Office of the Public Protector and other Chapter 9 institutions and the judiciary. And on our international matters, the National Executive Committee once more reaffirmed its commitment to the African agenda, appreciates South Africa's election to the chair of the African Union in 2020, and welcomed the coming into force of the African Continental Free Trade Area, and urged government and all sectors for society to prepare for the opportunities of the world's largest common market. the National Executive Committee reiterated the importance of South cooperation as part of our struggle for global peace and a more just global system. And we reaffirmed the conference resolution on solidarity with the Western Sahara and Palestine, and congratulated the Cuban government and people of their celebration this year of 60 years of the Cuban Revolution and of the 26 July movement led by the young Fidel Castro Ruz. The National Executive Committee confirmed its commitment to our national climate change obligations with a just transition as responsible global citizens. In conclusion, the National Executive Committee calls on all leaders and members of the African National Congress across the country to maintain unity, discipline, and embark on renewal so that it focuses all its energy on building a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous South Africa, and the struggle for a better Africa and a better world. The National Executive Committee committed to put shoulder to the wheel in the spirit of Tumamina and Kauleza to lead and focus in order to ensure that we decisively and immediately tackle hunger, that we speed up economic development and growth, we create employment for young people, we improve education outcomes in the context of a skills revolution, and deal with gender-based violence and violent crimes so we build safer communities. And I think I can give you the names of the National Youth Task Team. The convener of that National Youth Task Team is going to be Comrade Thandi Mahambahlala. And the coordinator of the task team is going to be Comrade Sibongile Besani. And the chairpersons of provinces and secretaries of the Youth League will be part of this national task team, together with the former officials of the ANC Youth League at national level. They will then be supported by the team from the National Executive Committee, which will include Comrade Dakota Lekwete, Zizi Kotwa, Pule Mabe, Faith Mtambe, Nomvula Mkonyana, Lamola, Lindwe Zulu, Mthethwa Nathi, David Masondo, Pinky Kekana, Phoebe Potgieter, Senzo Mtunu, former president of the Youth League, Lulu Johnson, former president of the ANC Youth League, Malusi Gigaba, and former president of the ANC Youth League, Comrade Figile Mbalula. That will be the task team assisted by members of the National Executive Committee. And in Northwest, the convener of the National Provincial Task Team is Comrade Susan Janji, who's going to be the convener chair, and Comrade Patrick Chauke, who was once a member of parliament, will be the coordinator, Comrade Supra Mahuma Pelo, Comrade Kinetswe Musenungi, Comrade China Dodovu, Comrade Silole Hare, Comrade Mutlale Pula Khosho, Comrade Salava Mulapisi, Comrade Nono Maloi, Comrade Rose Dipuko, Comrade Ntise Muntewa, Comrade Maite Khaile and Sophie Maine, Lerato Tema, Bridget Lomelang, Gisalum Kopani, Jojo Matlala, O.J. Tsilapedi, Noni Khabi, Manketsi Thape, Filima Pulani, Wendy Matsimela, Kedi Morolong, Lina Miga, Zeg Stolo, Bushimape, Wendy Nelson, Comrade Gordon Gihakile, and ex-officio Comrade Job Mokoro, and we'll also have the chairs and secretaries of the leagues in Northwest. And I'm sure that is the end of our statement. So there wasn't any muzzling of the Secretary General in the NEC. I just decided not to have a doorstep. And I'm sure that is a practice which will be a good practice even for the future. You don't believe so? So if you don't know, don't say I'm muzzled. I decided not to do a doorstep.
No, thank you very much, SG, for helping them understand that henceforth, no doorsteps. Will have this kind of briefings so that you could have a full appreciation of what really transpired at the National Executive Committee. The clarity helps SG so that they can convey the truth out to the public. We can now open the floor for questions. The practice is the same. You tell us your name and the media outlet you come from, and then file your question. We'll start this side. You will start Zwai, you will come. Amkelo. Zingiswa. Okay. Nawe. Independent. Sfiso. Are you?
Because so that we take all hands now, and then we can.
Otherwise, there will be questions coming up when answers are being given. We tend to delay. We're only going to open for 2 rounds of questions. Yes, Sisi? Pakistan? Okay. Now we put.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. From the SABC. Maybe let's start on the recent steps which have just indicated to us that the economy is in trouble. 29% unemployment. And last time we gathered in this room, the Secretary General of the ANC said in 5 years they were going to work hard. You were going to work hard to reduce it by, I think, 14%, if I am mistaken. Given that instead of reducing the unemployment is going up, do you still stick to that wish that you communicated last time we met here? Another quick question. One of the things, SG, you keep speaking about here is the unity of the ANC and to stop the public space. But we actually see the opposite on the ground. And I can tell you, those leaks you're complaining about, we don't get them from anyone else, but they come from the NEC people. So are you confident of the quality of leadership of people who are leading the ANC at this current juncture, given the current problems that we are having and some of the issues that you could easily be resolved, but you are not able to do? So I don't want to finish all the questions for my colleague, but I'll just pose once more on Derek Hanego. You said you referred it to the top officials. As why was that the case? Why didn't you perhaps institute the normal disciplinary processes, as he, on the face of it, appears to have somehow gone against the rules of the ANC?
Yes. Let's just check. I hear the mic tends to have some sounds there. Okay.
SG Lizega from News 24. The former president made these allegations, damning allegations against some of the leaders in the ANC, calling them spies. And you, in that state capture commission, said that the ANC should look into this. I'm wondering if the ANC did communicate, if there was any discussions about the allegations that were made by the former president, and what was the outcome?
Hello, Alistair Snout from Reuters. You said again that unity in the ANC is important, but there was quite a bit of dispute after your last briefing and the comments on the SARB's mandate. Does the ANC still want to change the mandate, and is the ANC united behind that? Or you sounded a bit more moderate in what you were saying today. is there no imminent change to the mandate in the office?
When it comes to issues of unity within your party, does this have to do in relation to what is reported to be the president's, in his political overview on Friday afternoon around the perceived perception or the allegations that there may be those who may be plotting to unseat him in the upcoming National General Council next year in 2020, June, July? Does it have anything to do with that? And when it comes to issues of various allegations being made by ANC leaders, is this in relation directly to the allegation that was made by the former president of the ANC of the country, former President Jacob Zuma, around those who may have been spies during the apartheid era? And then the last question, there have been some reports somewhere that one of your deputy ministers is fighting for his life and has been poisoned. Is there any credence to this allegation that Stumo Dlamini is fighting for his life? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Zingi from Sunday Times. My first question, SG, can you confirm or deny that the NEC took a decision that the permanent PIC board that's going to be appointed must be headed by the Deputy Minister of Finance, Mr. David Mason? Number two, on the National Youth Task Team, what was the rationale to have it comprised this way, especially by people who are beyond the age of the Youth League, contrary to the calls of contrary to the call that was made for this entity to be made of young people who are within the Youth League range of 35 and younger? Number 3 and 4 combined, on the issue of, you say that the NEC calls on all members of the ANC to maintain unity and discipline, but one would ask, how do they do that when leaders at national level are at each other's throats almost every day? And then lastly, on issue of South African Reserve Bank, you sort of changed the language of the sovereignty of the bank must be given to the ownership of the South Africans as a whole. Is that still nationalization of the Reserve Bank, as was the language spoken in Nasrec? Thank you very much.
Okay, we can come to Swiso now. Yeah, we'll be done. You're the only one. Then we take you, then we close for questions, the leadership answers, and then, yeah.
Thank you, Sefiso Mahlamu, Independent Media. On the 5th of August in 2017, the former SG, Mr. Gwedaman Dashe, said, and I quote, "The ANC will investigate and punish all those who voted against the party and all those who connived against former President Jacob Zuma." I want to know if that is still the modus, if that is still the action, now that you know that there were meetings with the EFF, particularly now that Mr. Hannah Gomez confirmed that he did meet the EFF in a bid to remove the former president. Is that still the position of the ANC? And my second question is, when the allegations were made against the SG that he and the former president had formed a new political party or had assisted the creation of ATM, the ANC ran speedily to form an inquiry of sorts that would be chaired by Ms. Freni Jenwana and former President Khalima Motlanthe. Now there are allegations that an NEC member of the ANC has worked to oust the president of the ANC, but we don't hear of an allegation, an inquiry, an investigation. Are there different mechanisms in dealing with different comrades, or what is the deal here? Thank you.
Kotato Marisa from the Sowetan. Was there any discussion around the Gauteng MBCs? And what was the agreement? Because we are being told that Premier Makura was advised to remove one male to add in order to appoint a female. Was that the agreement, and when is this supposed to be implemented? On Mr. Derek Haneko, the SG speaks about processing. What does processing mean? Can you please clarify on that? And then in terms of Public Protector Mkhwebane, the SG says the ANC still supports the office as well as other Chapter 9 officers. Does this mean you will not support the call for her to basically step aside in Parliament? And the last one, the SG speaks about unity, but the statement that the SG released, in which he referred to Mr. Derek Hanoko as a charlatan, sort of goes against that. Was that statement discussed in the NEC, and what was agreed?
Thanks. I'm going to hand over to the DSG, the SG, and Comrade Dakota. I'm sure that... okay, SG.
You see, what we have discussed is that the media want to set the agenda for the ANC because the media has its own sources. And we have discussed this matter of sources and sources amongst ourselves. And we have actually said there is a need to deal decisively with this matter of sources. Because at times you guys are able to cite the internal discussions. So it means you have your own spies. Is you saying so, Mzwandile? You say you have NEC members who are leaking this. It's not yourselves just trying to get the stories and writing. Because at times you do it in codes. And you know, when you do it in codes, we have decided that we need to approach the ombudsman. Because it means we are saying this is what has actually happened in the meeting when factually there isn't such a thing. Our position on the nationalization of the Reserve Bank has not changed. If you talk about sovereignty of that bank belonging to the people, it's one and the same thing. So we have said we are going to implement our decisions of NASREC. And as we do so, all the decisions which must be implemented in a responsible way. We are not like an opposition party. We are governing the country. And therefore, we have to be responsible. And that's why we are discouraging the public spares. Unity is a process. It's going to happen. And we're not going to stop talking about unity. Since the establishment of the African National Congress in 1912, until today we have been emphasizing this point. It's part and parcel of our DNA. And President never, and that's why I say your sources at times mislead you and make people, no wonder the research that 51% of South Africans no longer believe newspapers. Because you talk as if the president in his political overview raised a matter of somebody or some people wanting to topple him. We have never discussed such a matter. The ANC discussed and focused on matters affecting South Africans, unemployment, youth unemployment, gender-based violence, since it is actually Women's Month this year. So we have never discussed this. This was one of the most open, frank meeting of the National Executive Committee. A very lovely meeting with no temperatures high. Every leader was looking at the ANC and being critical of ourselves, interacting. And that's why our focus is about people of South Africa who are still poor. And that's why we also once more have put into context the fact that our ANC lexicon and resolution on radical socio-economic transformation must still happen. And we all agree that this is the way forward for us to actually make sure and we said comrades must stop abusing a public platform, abusing foundations, because we want to focus ourselves on unity. On the issue of Comrade Derek Hanekon, we are saying we have referred, this is a resolution by the National ANC Executive Committee. We refer this matter to officials for processing. Every agenda, every item we have discussed, when we go to the National Executive Committee, we take things we have processed, not something which happens and then comes and then we put it on the agenda without having been processed by the officials of the ANC, the National Working Committee. So when we take reports and any matter to the National Executive Committee, we start with officials, National Working Committee. When you go there, you go with recommendations of a collective, not recommendations of SG, not recommendations of DSG. DSG and SG are actually custodians and take matters of the National Working Committee to the National Executive Committee. We work as a collective, and I think that's what we want to emphasize, even on the issue of, so Sunday Times, internal discussions, we have serious internal discussions. We criticize ourselves, we look at ourselves, we look at society, we look at the global politics, and we make sure that the ANC hegemony is back. You will see the ANC in action. Maybe it's a matter of time, and those who understand politics will understand that we remain focused, we remain optimistic, we remain positive in making sure that we address challenges facing South Africa, challenges of the economy, because these are real challenges. And by the way, they are not only happening in South Africa. We are not an island, we are part of the globe. So what is happening today in South Africa is happening across the country. There are job losses throughout the world. And South Africa, we do have ways of making sure that we mitigate against these challenges. I'm sure DSG will take other questions. The issue of the Zondo Commission, we have said, and we have encouraged anybody with any information, because we're not hiding anything, to go to the Zondo Commission. So let's respect and wait and see what happens. But you must remember, a commission is not a court of law. That's one thing you have to distinguish. But the commission is doing its work, and let's leave it at that. Yes, G?
I'll start firstly with a question from...
DSG.
Oh, I have to go there.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Sorry, I'm short, so going there is a challenge for me.
I've adjusted.
Thank you very much. Let me begin firstly with the following. We spent a great deal of our time analyzing our economy. We received some inputs from various NEC members who are actors in the government, who lead the economic sector. Obviously, for us, this was the main and real issue that we had to spend most of our time on. The concern we raised was that up front, the divisions in the ANC impact on every sector of society. And we're very conscious of that. And therefore, in discussing the economy, the one commitment we made was that as the ANC, our commitment is to work with all sectors of society in partnership to try to bring on board everybody in our attempt to bring our economy back on track, an economy that will work for everyone. The issues, the stimulus package pronounced in last September by President Ramaphosa is one of the issues that we will all look at. There are 4 major categories that inform that. All of those will become part of our normal day-to-day work as well. On the Reserve Bank, I just want to say very categorically so that we're all clear about it and we don't go away with a different understanding. On the issue of sovereignty, it is our desire that the Reserve Bank should be in the hands of the people of South Africa. At the same time, we must accept and understand that the mandate of the Reserve Bank, because of its and it is an independent institution, said so by our Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. That doesn't change. It cannot change because of who the shareholder is. That's not the issue. The mandate of the Reserve Bank will continue to be a matter that will be from time to time consulted with the government. I don't know if you're aware that even in the United Kingdom now, there's a big debate about the Chancellor of the Exchequer looking at the mandate to expand the mandate of the Reserve Bank. Our Reserve Bank has already expanded its mandate way beyond interest rates. They do look at unemployment, they do look at other factors, and I think the important thing to remember is that we stand behind the independence of the Reserve Bank, and we stand behind the fact that its mandate is derived from its communications and consultations with the government of the day. On the issue of Derek Anacom, what does process mean? Process in the ANC has never been to make an accusation without actually providing people the opportunity to state their side of the case. And what is normal is for the officials, I want to give examples. For instance, in a number of local government entities, councils, you find that councillors have voted with the opposition to oust the mayor, voted with the opposition to deal with a particular economic issue in the council, and that would have been contrary to the mandate given to it by the caucus of the ANC in that council. In this case, the accusation that is made by a member of an opposition party. And what the NEC has directed us to do is to go and look at the veracity of the statements made by the EFF. Also to look at when Comrade Anacom says he did have discussions with the EFF, what were those discussions? So to give people an opportunity to state what it is that they believe they have done incorrectly. And then what will happen is the officials will then agree where this particular matter might go to. It might well go to the committee that is dealing with the allegations around the formation of small political parties. And I also want to indicate that at no time in the ANC, ever in any of our discussions, did we say that we were investigating the Secretary General. The decision of the NWC, the decision of the NEC is to form a committee that would look at any member of the ANC or the NEC that may have been involved in the formation of other political parties and for what purpose. That is the terms of reference of that particular committee. On the issue of allegations around spies and that kind of matter, we agreed we cannot discuss matters that are still in the purview of the Zondo Commission. People have a right to go to the Zondo Commission and cross-examine people who make statements. And as far as we know, both people whose names were mentioned have indeed said that that is what they were going to do. So we didn't go into that as a discussion at all. There was no mention in the President's opening remarks about him being unseated in the NGC. I can't remember that. And I never left the meeting. However, let me just explain an NGC so that we all understand. The National General Council reviews policy. It can replace an NEC member if there's a vacancy. There's no vacancy for the presidency of the ANC. And it is unlikely that there will be such a vacancy. So I think we must be cautious about rhetoric that comes from maybe friends of our desires. The desire of the ANC is not to unseat its president, nor is it intending to remove the president of the ANC anywhere. That's never been discussed. On the PIC board to be headed by a deputy minister, yes, the matter was raised because of historically that has been the position. as well as we believe, a position of the government to do so. What has happened is that the matter was raised and government was asked to go and discuss the matter properly and to come back with, because this is an interim board as we understand, it's not the permanent board, it is an interim board. We've left that to the government to discuss and give us a response since the matter was raised. The age of the people who are leading the Youth League, what we needed to put in place was people who had some organizational memory, because the only mandate of this task team is to take the Youth League to conference. And it must do so speedily, and it isn't going to be given too much leeway to deal with matters beyond that. I also want to just add, as we speak about the Youth League, that we do not accept the decision of a Youth League somewhere in Gauteng, I think it's Greater Johannesburg, that they will be training people militarily and handing out guns. We actually reject that absolutely. And the Youth League will be requested to come and explain themselves to us. That kind of statement. If anybody wants to join the Defence Force, they can apply and become a member of the South African National Defence Force. We do not subscribe to private armies on the side. Yes, it is true that Gwedemantashe did say that we would investigate all those who voted against the former president. That is absolutely true and correct. However, we are dealing with it in an internal party process so that we do not make judgments before we've actually looked at things very specifically. The small political parties was, as I said earlier, was not formed for the SG. We raised the concern that of the total vote, if one looked at the 3-point-some-odd%, we had anticipated that we would get 60% of the vote. But if you count the votes of all the smaller political parties, other than, let's say, NUMSA party and so on, 3% of the ANC's base had been taken by other political parties. And our concern was that those political parties had grown out of the ANC, and it would seem with an intention to weaken the base of the ANC. It's a concern, and it's not a concern that we can leave floating around. We have to look at it. And so we would like to know if any NEC members were involved in the formation of those political parties, not the SG. And that allegation comes from a single individual who made an affidavit. Yeah, it still has to be tested. Yes, we discussed Gauteng. The policy of the ANC is a 50% parity between men and women in all structures of the ANC right across the board. The NEC discussed the fact that Gauteng had deviated. The NEC also acknowledged the fact that the Gauteng matter was brought to the NWC. They had explained themselves and they were forgiven, if I might say. The NEC did not accept that the NWC could do that, and therefore the decision was that the Gauteng PEC needs to go and review its position and come back with a position that is in line with the policy of the ANC. On the issue of the Public Protector, the ANC fully supports the Office of the Public Protector. We've noted all the legal issues that surround the person of the Public Protector, and we have not made a call for the Public Protector to step down. I'm not sure where else. I think the SG may have dealt with that. Yes, on the question of our economy in trouble and can we reduce unemployment in 5 years' time to 14%, it's our desire to reduce unemployment. It is our desire. It is also our desire to do so as per the ANC's policy positions and the National Development Plan as soon as possible. And it did say 5 years hence. Our concern right now is working towards increasing economic activity that will create jobs. We've had low job creation in our country for quite a while. And we've also had low growth, and the two go together. So we would like to work on that very much as a matter of urgency, and I think that needs partnership across the board. The notion that there is a distance between the ANC and the private sector is not entirely correct. We may have different perspectives on matters, but one needs the other. And what we discussed in this meeting is that as the ANC, we will make more of an effort to engage with the private sector. Public spats, SG dealt with that, and so allegation, 2 times dispute on the, okay, unseat the president. Okay, and I think we've covered all your first round of questions. Thank you. Oh, Dumo Dlamini. Yes, first of all, let me just say that we wish Comrade Dumo Dlamini a speedy recovery. He has been taken very seriously ill. We don't know what is causing his illness. We cannot speculate. We haven't been told by his family what has caused his illness. And the family have not informed us of the suspicion of poisoning. We're in touch with Mrs. Dlamini almost daily. We do speak to her to get updates. We're worried about him. He isn't doing very well. And we just hope that the cause is not poisoning. We're hoping. But whatever it is, we wish him well and we wish him to recover. He's a valuable member of our organization and of the society. Thank you.
No. Thank you very much. Looks like we've clarified all of the questions that were raised. Safe to say that on the statement, the Secretary General we do issue statements from time to time in between National Executive Committee meetings. So the SG doesn't have to call an NEC before he issues a statement through ourselves in DIP. We've got an organization to run. There is full-time capacity at Lituli House. DIP is a full-time unit, so is the national spokesperson of the ANC. So work is being done. What we are now communicating to yourselves are decisions of the National Executive Committee. So any other thing would have fallen off because the line now comes from the NEC. And I think both the DSG and the SG have gone at length to try and clarify issues honestly, objectively, and to the best of what was discussed in the NEC. And I'm sure this clarifies all of you from the 4th estate. If there are some follow-up questions, we can entertain those before we close. This is the last round of questions. Okay, so Tala ngawe Lizega, Zengawe Samkelo, and yourself, then we close. Okay.
I'm sorry, Bully, I'm just going to hear from the SG. SG, are you saying that essentially that the names that you called Mr. Derek Hanagom, Charlton, EFF Sleeper, are you now saying that you retract that statement? I just want to get clarity on that. Are you retracting that statement coming from the NEC?
We have never discussed.
Well, can we just clarify that that was not part of the discussion? We are done with that. That process has, the matter has now been, no, the SG will come and clarify it, but we have already explained the issue has been referred to the officials. Okay. So the SG will repeat this in his voice.
Mine is just clarity-seeking question. On the issue of the public protector, I understand you, DSG, to be saying you did make a call for the public protector to step down. But the question, I think that was asked, was whether or not the NEC did take a position, given the fact that the issue of the public protector is referred to Parliament, for her to be probed in number of feet and so on. Did you take any decision on whether or not you are going to support the probe or you are going to reject the probe?
Okay, can we take all of them? Okay, because this is the last final round.
DSG, on the issue of...
your hand was not up. No, Samkelo was up, Zingi was behind you, your hand was not up, so we've closed for questions. Yes.
DSG, on the issue of the investigation with regards to your concern that this 3% of your base has gone to splinter parties that come from within your ranks, how far are you with this investigation that you're looking into with some ANC members who've allegedly been part of the formation of these splinter parties? And then with the issue of the public protector, I assume you've seen the court papers filed today by the president and by the public protector. Are you not worried that there seems to be politics that's entering into the issues of the dealings of the public protector, particularly looking at the wording of the President's submission and also the wording of the public protector's submission to the North Gauteng High Court. And on the issue of ESCOM, are you not worried that too many individuals, particularly from the private sector, and the same faces are being recycled in these state-owned enterprises? Many people have questioned the deployment of Jabu Mabuza in the interim at ESCOM, which may be reporting an all-time financial loss this afternoon when it comes to their financials. Thank you.
Okay, no, can we take him and then you will close it?
Hi there. Just also to follow up on ESCOM, is the appointment of an interim CEO to serve at the same time as he's serving as executive chairman, is that because it was hard to find anyone else to be CEO? And is it ideal situation that in such a complicated company you have one person doing two jobs? Shouldn't he sort of share the burden?
Thank you very much. Susan Boyson, just two quick additional questions. You said in your statement that there was an affirmation on the principle of user pay, public infrastructure. So that means you've referred the payment for e-tolls. Are there specific developments there? And the second one about the Integrity Committee or Commission, and I see you've named it both committee and commission. It'd also be nice to know forever which it actually is, a committee or a commission. Does the strengthening of his powers mean that it is still or no longer a subcommittee of the NEC, accountable to the NEC, and that can its decisions still be overturned by the NEC? Thank you very much.
Why did you say on the e-tolls just for officials?
Affirmation of
the user pay principle. Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, those are the only questions we had. DSG, SG, yes.
Thank you very much. On the issues of the public protector, our take is that when the public protector makes a finding against a person, that person has a right to review those findings. And there's a particular process that takes place in this country and has for the last 20 years. The president a finding was made. He has responded by taking it on review. Then on the issues, similarly with the issues of Minister Pravin Gordhan, it's taken on review. The question of the court's finding is that the public protector's findings cannot be implemented while there is a review process in place. That is the issue. And that's how we also, when we discussed it, that's how we looked at it. The question you ask is, are we going to instruct our caucus to take action against the public protector? We've not discussed that matter at all. We've not taken a view as to whether or not we will ask the public protector to step down. That's been the narrative in the media at the moment. Our concern, our primary focus is that can we allow the law to take its course? Can we allow the issues that are playing itself out in the courts to take root? And when people make submissions, they make submissions in defense of themselves. I think that's natural and normal. And we shouldn't make it sound as if it's an abnormal thing. When the public protector does go to Parliament, we would also wish to hear her side of the story. She has not made publicly available any of the issues that she's, well, she does say a few things, but we would like to be able to understand where her position, what her position is and where she's coming from. I think in all of this, we are still saying that we support the office of the public protector and will continue to do so. I think we want to go with it there. On the 3%, I think it's absolutely normal for us to be concerned as to why a 3% of our base has gone somewhere else. We're a political organization, we're a liberation movement, we have to look at this. It would be irresponsible not to look at that. The work hasn't begun yet, and you all know from your own sources, I suppose, that former President Mutlanti, because of his commitments in the UN, could not undertake the task. So we had to find somebody else. And he is also big. So the second person we asked was very busy with where he's deployed. He has also not been available. What we're looking at now is we're looking at 3 or other 4 people to talk to first before it becomes public knowledge. And it does upset people when your name is mentioned in a meeting and somebody leaks it to the media and it's public knowledge before I even know. And that does create problems. On ESCOM, we only heard about the appointment of Mr. Of the CEO late last night, after our meeting had already broken up. There was no discussion about ESCOM CEO in the meeting of the NEC whatsoever. Of course, it is of concern to us that the same person is both chair and CEO, and we will raise that matter and concern with the affected minister. It is of concern, but we understand that perhaps it was a matter of urgency, and perhaps that's the explanation, that they urgently had to have a person to be the CEO, given the fact that they are presenting results today. So there was no discussion on this matter.
Well, I'm sure we have answered all those questions. You know, when we look at the judiciary or any review, you must remember there are lower courts and higher courts, and the Supreme Court of Appeal and the Constitutional Court. And as a journalist, I'm sure you know, an analyst, that a higher court may overturn the decision of a lower court. It doesn't mean that there is no confidence in the judge who is sitting in the lower court, because there are many judgments which have been reversed recently, even by the Supreme Court of Appeal, as well as the Constitutional Court. So you can't say, if I'm doing my work and something is found against me, therefore I am so-called incompetent. Otherwise, you'll all say, this magistrate whose cases have been overturned by higher courts, by the Supreme Court of Law, by the Constitutional Court, you'll say all those judges are incompetent. It can't be. Number 3, I'm sure when the SG has addressed this issue of young people, why we also did not want to put younger people, we want to give them space to become leaders. We don't want them to go and use this platform of an NYTT to campaign and lobby, and at the same time then become part of the leadership of the Youth League. We now want young people. We no longer want people who are at even 5 years at that time. We want young people to lead the ANC Youth League. And that's why this team is there temporarily, to ensure that the ANC Youth League goes to a conference. It means structures are there on the ground, and structures are there in regions and provinces. And they must just go and work with these structures to make sure that within a particular period, and we have outlined a period, that this Youth League must actually go to a conference. The Integrity Committee is a subcommittee of the ANC. It reports and accounts to the National Executive Committee. This is in line with our resolutions. The powers of the Integrity Commission are there, the terms of reference are there, they can call anybody anytime. I think we have dealt with that matter. I'm sure we have not announced the fact that we have also made Comrade Mildred Oliphant the chairperson of the National Disciplinary Committee, replacing or filling that vacancy which was left by the late Comrade Edna Molewa. And we have also, but it's a known thing that Comrade Nomvola Comrade Gigaba Malusi, Comrade Sbongile Besani, Comrade Andres Nel, Comrade Colin. These are full-time NEC members now, because we are beefing up and we want to make sure that the ANC can respond to issues which were raised during elections, so that we beef up our capacity and make sure that we make the ANC strong. Because if we have to ready ourselves for renewal and unity and work hard and servicing our people, you need full-time people. And the more we are going to deal with the issues of strengthening the African National Congress. And we also received the Vietnamese delegation, which came to see the ANC yesterday. And it also, of course, when we talk about infrastructure in South Africa, we are actually just saying, whether you need electricity, whether you need any other thing, you are going to have to pay for it. So user pay principle is a principle we want to generally talk about when we look into issues of infrastructure, so that we fast track, because our focus now is going to be in rural areas, in townships. We have to make sure that the economy of South Africa is shared amongst the people now. Your procurement systems, those are the things we are going to look at, so that the townships and the villages and rural communities where our base and the poor masses of our people are actually able to access some of government services and functions. I'm sure we have covered you today, we have given you enough time. So we're not talking from sources. So anything we have not touched is because it's not what we discussed in the National Executive Committee. So your sources must assist you to give you real facts. And I don't know why you need sources when we are available for interviews. Make time with us, because we'll tell you formally as SGO. Yeah? We're not threatened by media highlighting your stories, and then when you read the content is different. But your, what do you call this?
The caption.
The caption is something else. Mahashule muzzled. How do you muzzle me? Maybe it's the media which want to muzzle me. So thanks for giving us this opportunity, and all the best. We think you will report objectively, because you are getting it from the horse's mouth. You're not getting this news from another source.
Commission or committee in IEC? Commission.
Yeah, it's a commission, Integrity Commission.
No. Thank you very much, members of the Fourth Estate. From the horse's mouth, the presser is officially over now. Oh, you even want lunch?